Hello and welcome back to the channel. This is the finished green oak framing, and in this video I'm going to take you through to this stage here. So we're pretty much at a completion stage of where I'm going to get it to. And the previous video we had just finished fitting the rafters, this valley rafter. So yeah, hopefully cover it all in this one, so hope you enjoy. After we got them rafters fitted, there was only a few days of good weather to start getting the rest of the roof construction made up. So we made a really early start one morning and watched the beautiful sunrise across the valley as we uncovered the roof and started fitting the boarding on. So we got 20mm tongue and groove oak boarding we had machined up by someone else to fit on top of the rafters, and that was nailed down from above. We're using some stainless steel ring shank nails in a 63mm length. I think there were some 80s as well that we used in the ends of the boards. And I just set the first run of them boardings flush with the ends of the rafters that I'd cut off. They were a dead straight cut all the way along, so it just made that boarding nice and straight. Obviously beveled the edge to match the bevel of the roof, so the edge of the boarding sat plumb with the face of the end of the rafter. One other thing I did before fitting the boards was I ran down the rafters and nailed some 80mm ring shanks in from either side of the rafters into the wall plate and the ridge, just as a bit of extra security. And then once that first run was in, I could keep the run straight along the roof by just measuring up off it at the ends of each board, making sure they're the same all the way along the roof and nailing them in place. We used the pas load for the majority of it, and then at the ends of the boards pre-drilled the nail hole so that it didn't split the boards. I didn't do an awful lot of filming in terms of like my daily vlog style, because like I say, I'm running out of time to get this done versus what weather we'd got heading in. Working way up the valley, got these last few to cut on. Not been filming much because we're against the weather today. Got one day of good weather, but yeah, should get this one done and make a good start on this one today. Anne's over here double sanding, got the efficient technique down. What I've done is set a straight line along this edge off the ends of the rafters. That was dead straight from the laser. Mitered that up. I've just cut this one off at the this one comes in obviously on that line there on the valley board. I've just cut it off with the edge of this one, and that, I think that's going to look right with the boarding. Done a plumb cut on that. Lots of deliberation about that one. Yeah, just working our way along, having to drill the ends nails and pop them in by hand because see there, it split the first one. Yeah, and just to keep them nice and straight, there's a bit of variation in these boards, which is a shame, but to keep them nice and straight, got them first two in straight and then just periodically measure up. I tend to put a long board down, measure up with the tape from that end one straight, and just like drill and nail the end board there, and then just eye the rest of it in straight, bang some nails in with the pas load, and work our way along. So pretty easy process, just takes a bit of time. I've had Bro helping this morning, as you saw probably on the first bit of video before the phone ran out of memory, but he's been cutting and passing up, so we've been getting on well. But yeah, progress update. Fixing these boards down with some stainless steel 63mm nails, I think, and just one in on the bottom edge of each board, so it makes the top edge a little bit looser, so it's a bit easier to get the boards in, knock them all together. If you nail the top edge down tight, you have to knock every board in. It's really difficult. So yeah, just standing on them, and once you stood on them, you can tap them back with a hammer, line them up nice and easy. So most of the camera shots consisted of plonking the camera down quickly in one spot and just watching us work away. So quite often I run out of battery or memory on the phone, which is pretty disappointing not to capture all of it. But I got some pretty cool shots of getting them boards on. got a little bit tricky fitting the boarding underneath the sort of the bottom of the garage roof that it sits underneath, so end up using a little CXS angle driver, just put a couple of screws in to fix the boards in that location. But on the whole, it was a pretty simple job. The roofer asked for a fillet to be put at the bottom of the roof, like a decorative fillet, so that it would cast the bottom slate support up, so that when you put your first slate on, which is like a not half slate but a shorter slate than your main slate, that fillet is there to stop the bottom slate that sits underneath from dropping and looking ugly underneath the slate roof. So I made them up, which was quite time consuming, back at the workshop, and I made a sled for the planer to actually get them to the finished size, because I had such a limited amount of wood available to make them from. I had to do a machine cut on the bandsaw to get the shape of them, to tessellate it out of a single piece of wood. So I was left with small bits of wood to machine, so I ended up making a sled on the planer in order to get them dimensioned to an accurate size. So we glued and nailed them fillets on at the front of the roof, and I made some, because they were small pieces of wood, just made some softwood back fillet so that it was a nice ramp all the way off the boarding of the roof onto that fillet, so that any water that did happen to get under the slates and the 2 layers of membrane was transported off the roof without stopping in any welling places. Once that was in place, just a case of laying over with some Tyvek roofing membrane, putting a few staples in that to hold it in place. Then we used a 18mm counter batten in line with the rafters up the roof to give a bit of cavity for some airflow above the boarding. And on top of this will be a normal batten for the slate roof to be fitted onto. There'll also be a tray at the bottom of the roof that the second layer of felt, so the top layer of felt will run onto a plastic tray which takes the water then into the gutter at the ends of the rafters. And in the valley of the roof, the roofer asked me to put some valley boards in, so they're just he asked for 1x6, but we had some 1x4, so ended up doubling that up to do like an 8-inch valley board for him to run his lead valley down and for him to nail slates into for them valley cuts. So that was all prepared nicely for him. I'd flown all the boarding through on the ends and then just ran up it with the track saw just to cut them off flush with the end of the end rafter, and that was going to be our finish. So we've just got a barge board on the outside of the end rafter to go on, which will be cut once the slating's done. So the roofer's going to throw his slates 2 inches past the end of the rafter as a finish to the edge of the slates, and then the barge board on the outside of the rafter will be roughly 1 inch thick. So you'll have 1 inch overhang of slate, then to the barge board, and then it's the rafter behind. And then inside that end rafter, I made up a little frame, triangular frame, with some prison bars, which is a nice little detail just to finish off that open triangle at the top of the roof, and it looks really good. So yeah, that's where we're at. We're pretty much at this stage. I think we're going to wait till the spring and wait for some good weather to have a good sanding down of all these beams, and perhaps get some Osmo on them, probably an Osmo protection stain, and then like a UV oil just to bring the colour right out of these posts. So I'll put some boarding up, stop majority of the weather from discolouring the bottoms of the posts, and hopefully they'll winter quite nicely. I've cut these posts off at 6 inch and just sanded the end grain for now. The rest will get sanded when we do the frames in the summer, and that's my little repair job on that mistake there where I mortised too far in one of my previous videos, which is quite funny. Just made up a wedge out of the piece of wood that was here. I cut like a block of wood out of here, made up a wedge and a couple of packing fillets to sit on the edge of this tenon that was set back, and then glued it to death and really drove it up there so it tapped it nice and tight. Yeah, there we go. It's looking really good. I'm glad it's over, but glad I did it, and everything's been successful. It all worked out correctly in all the places it needs to. And at the end of the day, it looks really good, which is probably the most important thing. It looks like a really nice structure. Still a bit of work to do, but I'm probably not going to end up doing it. There's a few pallets to put in here when I'm back in the future. And lighting was a big topic. So what would you do for lighting in this? I think what we're going to end up doing is some 2, maybe 3 pendant lights just hanging down, like some antique aged brass pendant lights hanging down from here, and perhaps a bulkhead light of some sort over on that one, or maybe even on the end wall or on the end post near that door. But yeah, it's a pretty tricky area to light up. Lots of ideas we batted around, but at the end of the day, it's down to the customer to decide what they want and what they think looks best. But it's a really nice spot just stood here, and you got like a visual both ways of the oak. Proud moment to have it all finished and looking really, really good. But yeah, that pretty much concludes this project. You'll probably see a video on the channel at some point of when it's been slate roofed. Might get a little clip of Steve doing some slate roofing. I'll definitely see some pictures of it at some point when it is fully finished, and the floor will no doubt be going down the paving as well. It should look incredibly good when it's all done. But on to the next project, and we're over here. We're putting a really nice front door in this section here. I've been filming the manufacture of this canopy. That is an Accoya canopy with an absolutely massive moulding section up here that I've made and painted and got fitted over the last few months as well. So yeah, I've done a film on that. I might try and get that released before I do any more videos, but the next thing I'm making is going to be this big green door frame in here. That's going to be really, really special front door. Bigger sections as I've ever used in a door frame. Solid 6x4 Sapele, and it's huge door, and it's really beautiful. Hopefully you can join me for that one. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you in that next video.